watching the SCAC Swimming and Diving Media Days. Today, we're taking a dive into Colorado College men's and women's swimming and diving programs. Tigers will be led as they head into the season. The guidance of head coach Jen Buffin, along with leadership from seniors Collin, Ralston, and Olivia Crisafulli. And Coach Olivia, Collin, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Coach, we'll open up with you. You joined and became a part of this program back in 2022, but it was announced back in May that you'd be taking over as the head coach as Ann Goodman-James steps into retirement. How has that transition gone for you? How important was it to have been a part of these programs, just as far as that transition goes? And what are you excited most about as you get ready to start this first season as the head coach of these programs?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first and foremost, I was fortunate to work under Ann Goodman-James for the last 2 years. I think she was an important part of my decision to stay here at Colorado College and to be back in the head coaching seat. I took a little bit of a break for a few years, and a lot of it was about me, finding my own passion for the sport and deciding, what I wanted out of it in terms of, my future in coaching. And so the first 2 years, it was great to be underneath her leadership and to see what she has built over the last 17 years. And to be part of the success in the last couple of years has been a lot of fun. And so I think it was a pretty easy decision when she asked me if I would be interested in taking over the program. And so I always have that in the back of my mind, is to make sure that we're continuing to build on her legacy. Obviously, I have my own coaching philosophy and the way that I do things, but, I think it's really important when you take over a program that you continue to build on the success that it's had. And so I think for me, it's been great. Obviously, I've had, built relationships with the returning athletes. I had a huge role in recruiting the athletes that are coming into the program. And so it feels pretty comfortable to be in the head coaching seat and to take over the program. Obviously, it's a lot of work, even though that foundation is set. There's just changes that we're making in terms of, what's going to be important to us moving forward to continue to get better as a program and for our athletes to get better individually as well.
Collin, I'm interested just from a student athlete perspective, Coach Buffin in that transition space, she talks about her excitement. Just from your perspective, what has Coach Buffin brought in as the new head coach of this program, and how excited are you and your teammates to kind of officially get underway under her leadership and guidance heading into the year?
Yeah, I mean, we're super excited. Jen has a ton of experience, and the transition honestly was pretty seamless. We all felt pretty comfortable with her as being introduced as our head coach, just because she had been here the 2 years prior, and so we all felt really comfortable on deck immediately. And I really think that has kickstarted us getting going here really quickly.
Olivia, coming into your senior season, you've been a part and taken place in multiple SCAC finals at SCAC championships over your career. And so now to come into this senior space, take me through your mindset coming into the start of this year. How excited are you back at the start of a new year? And what do you love most about, kind of that start of a fresh season and being back with your teammates?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like every year my mindset changes a little bit just as I progress through my years at CC and I gain more experience and I meet all of my new teammates. But I feel like my mindset this year, especially considering I'm a senior, it's just really to have fun and enjoy my teammates and enjoy swimming for the last 6 months that I'll have with it competing at the NCAA level. I've really enjoyed competing as an athlete here at CC. It's definitely transformed my college experience and made it so much better. I would definitely say that my teammates in this team have been a pretty integral part of my experience at Colorado College. And I definitely I'm just excited. It's exciting having a new coach, a new coaching staff, and we have a great class of freshmen this year too. So I'm definitely excited to see what we achieve inside and also outside of the pool as well.
Coach, I really appreciated what you said as far as having your own style, but being respectful of the success that the program has had in the past. So I'm interested, what are some of those slight changes as you put your fingerprints on this program and take over that head coaching space? What are some things maybe that you're really trying to implement early on and sort of set as a foundation with this new stepping stone in this programs, in both these programs going forward?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that was really important to me when I took over was to really think about what our leadership looked like within the program. And so we've made some changes in terms of what we're doing as a leadership group. I wanted the athletes to feel like they had somebody that they could go to. And then that leadership group is able to bring things to me that are important to the team. And so that everybody feels like they have a role and that they, have a say in what decisions are being made. And so that was one of the biggest changes that I've made. And I think that it has also been about making sure that that leadership team is supported and that they're getting educated. And so we've been doing a lot of work with them. Olivia and Collin are part of that group. And I would say that they have committed a lot of time to, not only their individual, success in that role in terms of what they're learning. But, we're learning a lot about the team. We're learning a lot about each other. And I think that that's a big part of my coaching philosophy is that, I want the athletes to start to think about who they are in that role, being a student athlete. And so we've talked a lot about, performance standards, that we want to set for the program. We're talking about community standards, how we want to be both in the pool and within our community here at CC. And so we spent a lot of time in this preseason and early season really just digging into who we are as a program, how we want to be, how we want to show up. Not just in practice, but when we get to competitions and then, ultimately when we get to the SCAC championship.
Collin, individually, you've had an outstanding first 3 seasons there at CC, a 4-time individual SCAC champion, including winning the 200 IM a season ago and the 100 breast, a 9-time all-conference performer in your own right. So what is it that continues to motivate you in the pool, despite all this success? And what are some things that you've continued to work on through the course of the offseason through the summer that continue to build your confidence going into your senior year?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for those compliments. I think what motivates me is the team. I'm a very competitive person individually, but I want to win for the team, not only for myself. And so I think that's been the defining motivating factor for me throughout swimming here at CC. And in terms of work to get better, I've been lifting a lot over the summer as well as just doing cardio. And in the season, I think there are still a lot of improvements I can make on my technique, as well as just my physical shape, like how in shape I am. And so I think just continuing to work on those things will bring me success.
Olivia, you talked about that mindset that you have coming into this season. I'm interested from a team perspective. This is a program that's come off back-to-back runner finishes at the SCAC championships, the first time that it's done that since 2018-19. So a lot of positive, building steps over the last couple of years at these SCAC championships. What's the mood been like? What's the vibe been like with the team? How excited is this group to be back and starting to compete again? And do you feel like those successes helped motivate this group coming into this season?
Yeah, I would also say similar to my mindset that the team as a whole is just excited as well. I mean, you can feel the energy on deck every time we're getting in for practice, whether it's at 6 a.m. or whether we're getting ready for our inter-squad meet that we had 2 weekends ago. I think that everyone is just super excited. I think that we all have in the back of our mind that we want to be a championship team and that we know that in order to be a championship team and in order to perform well at conference, we need to put in the hard work. And I think everyone here is really committed to doing that. We've had a lot of conversations about our goals, things we want to accomplish this season. And I think as a whole, our team is just very committed to each other and also very committed to our swimming and working hard in the pool and accomplishing our goals.
Coach, one of the unique things I think about swimming is that length of the season and expanding over multiple semesters, different than most all sports that we sponsor here in the SCAC. And it allows for that growth, which I think is kind of unique, maybe to other sports as well. And so, for you as a coach, what are some things early on in these first couple of weeks and months of the season are you looking for that kind of give you confidence that this team is setting themselves up to have the ability to be swimming their best come championship portion of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me throughout my coaching career, it's very much been about the process. Because it is a long season, and if we're constantly focused on what the results are, it can get very long, and it can get very frustrating. And so that's why we have spent a lot of time, in this early part of the season deciding, like how are we going to show up at practices? What kind of effort are we going to be putting in? What is it going to look like when we go into these dual meets? So it's not just outcome based. It's, how are we showing up? How are we supporting each other? How are we communicating with each other? I think is also a key piece of this. And then obviously there are performance pieces of, building up, their aerobic capacity and, starting to get into more speed work, which is something that we've been doing more of, as a program. And so, I hope that, what we're doing in the pool, what we're doing in our training sessions and within our training groups, we're going to see some different outcomes during the season than maybe we've seen in the past. And so, we've, split some of the practices where the men's team is practicing by themselves and the women's team is practicing by themselves. And, we do that purposely just so that we could build that camaraderie within each of those programs. But, we've been working a lot of technique. Like Collin said, there's always room for our athletes to get better. And so it's finding that small little thing that's going to help them, that they're going to focus in on when we get to dual meets. And so it's taking what we're doing in practice, having a plan, and having a purpose when we go into those dual meets, and then being able to evaluate, those performances and then go back and continue to work on those things that we want to get better at. And so, that I call them, we talk about what we want to get out of, the meet, going into it. And then we debrief afterwards to figure out, okay, what did we hit and where do we need to continue to work and improve upon.
As we wrap up with our two student athletes, as you both have had conversations with some of the other leaders and seniors within your groups and your programs about some of the goals and expectations for these two teams coming into the season. As I mentioned, a lot of success, both programs coming off back-to-back runner-up SCAC conference finishes. So when you've had those conversations, what have they looked like? And ultimately, what is going to be key for these two programs to accomplishing those goals heading into the year?
Yeah, I mean, when we're setting goals as a team, we really like for it to be a collaborative process. So we like to get everyone's input, making sure everyone has a voice on what they think the goals of the program should be. And so that's kind of how we formed our goals for this year. And, in terms of how do we get there, I think that it's all about getting a little better each day, and just stacking days on top of each other so that we have the ability to get better, and be the best that we can be.
Yeah, and also kind of like Jen and Collin alluded to, we've spent a lot of the beginning part of the season talking about what we want our goals to be and kind of some of the objectives we have, whether that's defining like what roles different people have on the team in order for them to feel included and like they are really a part of this team in many different ways. Because I mean, on a 55-person team, it's hard for every single person to have the same role. So we at CC find it important that everyone understands what their role is in the team and how important they are in the team. And then Also, we've really just talked a lot about our specific goals, holding each other accountable to those goals, and really just being committed to growing and getting better each day, and just taking a lot of time to reflect and thinking about some internal feedback that we're giving ourselves just to make us better athletes and also just people as well. And I think if we really commit to doing all of that, we will hopefully continue our streak of being conference runner-up or hopefully conference champions as well.
And finally, Coach, as we wrap up with you, and in sport, success can be measured in so many different ways, and it's clear hearing from both of these two leaders on your team that these discussions have been obviously been happening and made very clear. So when you talk about success with your programs, what is it that you try to convey as that message? How do you try and quantify that with your two groups, and ultimately these seasons look successful if what plays out over the course of 2024-25?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard in sport. We are measured in wins and losses. But I think for me, it's bigger than that. It's the lessons that they're learning every day when they show up. Giving them a space where they can grow, where they're going to fail, and put support around them during that. And so I think I really, like I said earlier, it's about the processes. Like, are we meeting the standards that we are setting for ourselves? Are we, meeting, the performance standards? Are we meeting our community standards? And then I think through that's where they're going to see success, in terms of what the time outcomes are going to be. I think that when you just focus on the time outcomes, it gets really difficult for them to figure out where they need to continue to improve. And so for me, I love to use sport as a tool for them to learn life skills, things that they're going to take away with them when they're done with the sport. Because in any other environment, you're going to need these same skills to continue to improve in whatever field that you're going into once you graduate from college. And so for me, measuring success is how we're showing up every day. What they're learning about themselves, the aha moments. And then, it's a culmination of all of the days, like Collin said, that are stacked on top of each other, that when we get to a championship, they feel prepared. And they don't have to think about, being a championship team. They already are a championship team.
Colorado College men's and women's swimming and diving programs. The Tigers again will be led as they head into the season under the guidance of head coach Jim Buffin, along with leadership from seniors Collin, Ralston, and Olivia Crisafulli. Coach, Olivia, Collin, thanks so much for joining us today, and best of luck as you head throughout the rest of the year.
Thank you.